Thank you. Have a good night.
Got it. Good afternoon, good evening. This is Carlton Hunt. I chair the Energy Committee. And before we get started, I need to read a disclosure. Basically, pursuant to Section 20 of Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2020, the act relative to the extending, just a minute, COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency and the March 31st, 2025 extension granted by Chapter 22, April of 2022. This meeting of the town of Bridgewater will be fully remote and accessible to the public through remote participation to the greatest extent possible. No in-person attendance is permitted. Citizens who wish to tune in may do so by Zoom. So here we are on Zoom. I see no public. I'm calling the meeting to order at 6:31. We have Bob Ruley here to talk a little bit about the things he's doing in town. I'm going to have him do the public comment first, and then he can take off and do other things that he needs to do. So Bob, you have the floor.
Thank you, Carlton. Good evening, everyone. My name is Bob Ruley. I am the Director of Community and Economic Development. I started in this position on January 9th. It's a homecoming of sorts for me because I was in Bridgewater beginning in 1977 as a student when it was a college. So one of the things that we're really focusing on is both the revitalization of the Central Square area and then potentially the redevelopment of the Campus Plaza site, the Perkins Foundry site, and some other infill sites. Those of you that are interested, we did a workshop with the town council that covered all of these areas last week. I think that is available on the town's Facebook page. One of the things that we are including within this initiative are revisions to our zoning ordinance to include something that is called form-based code. Form-based code is a predictable planning tool where it is laid out in a checklist for developers what the community would prefer in types of materials, types of building uses, location of buildings, street trees, renewable energy, things of that nature. So I think what it would be interesting and is important to this committee is we anticipate some significant new development at the Campus Plaza site and the Perkins Foundry site and some other sites. While most of that will be housing, we also expect it to be mixed use. So most of you know that Bridgewater was one of the first communities in the Commonwealth to adopt the stretch code. So that still is in place, which raises the bar in terms of energy efficiency and building design. As of July 1st, of this year, the requirements for commercial buildings are going to increase as well with respect to energy efficiency. But we'll also embed within the form-based code additional requirements for energy efficiency, calling on building developers to make sure that they're making the buildings accessible for the use of renewable energy, looking at incentives that they can incorporate in terms of whether it's windows, high efficiency heating and cooling systems, same thing with hot water heaters. Again, a lot of that is already embedded within the stretch code, but we want to make sure we memorialize that within the form-based code. So the way the form-based code works is if a developer comes in and proposes a project that checks all the boxes that are outlined in the code, it's more of an expedited approval process. So they don't necessarily have to go to the planning board, to the zoning board, back to the planning board, and sometimes to the town council. There would only be one board or commission or council that would review and approve a project based on the developer satisfying all the requirements of the form-based code. If a developer did not want to conform to the form-based code, they can still go forward with a project, but they're going to have to go through the process of planning board, zoning board, and potentially a town council. So I first was exposed and initiated form-based code over 20 years ago in Arlington, Virginia, along an area called Columbia Pike, which has some similarities to what we see in the Campus Plaza Broad Street area. in that area now, major projects are getting approved in less than 1 year. So that's a real incentive for the development community because they save a lot of money on attorney's fees and engineering fees and architectural fees. And again, it's something that the community has buy-in because as the form-based code is developed, there'll be community input. I'll close by saying that I had applied for and have received funding through the Massachusetts Housing Partnership to bring in Horsey Whitman as a consultant. They will be on the ground next week, laying out what the scope of the form-based code will look like. And then we're also advised recently that we're eligible for up to between $100,000 and $300,000 of funding through the Mass Housing Choice Program. And that will actually allow us to keep Horsey on to write the zoning amendment and to actually write the code and conduct the public meetings with us. So I know you have a busy agenda. I don't want to take a lot of your time, but I just wanted to give you a highlight of there's things are happening. And more than happy to have offline conversations with any of you regarding this. As I said, I would, if you have the time, recommend that you do look at the workshop on the Facebook page. I think there was a lot of good information. There was a lot of good questions asked, and there was some real positive energy coming out of that. I want to build on that positive energy. Our next step is to start to engage the community more in all of the things that we're doing, both with respect to Central Square and with respect to that area around Campus Plaza. A large part of what will happen with Campus Plaza is us working to relocate the MBTA platform from its current location back somewhere in that Spring Street parking lot. That's a conversation we've already had with BSU, and we think, well, they've indicated they're supportive of that. It's really swapping parking, which they're much more inclined to want to have on that side of Plymouth than it is now. So if you have questions, I'm happy to answer those. Carlton, if I missed anything, let me know. Otherwise, I'll let you all go on your way.
Well, Kristen or Tom, you have some specific, I have a couple of questions, but you guys, I've heard. So do you have any questions, Tom or Kristen?
Not right now. It was great to hear what I've just heard from you is encouraging for the town and to be in this state, and that we actually have this in place to grow on. I've got a lot of talking in the coffee shop with this. This will be interesting.
Well, let's keep talking about it.
That's exactly. We got it out. I'll get it out there tomorrow morning at 6 o'clock.
He's a key guy because he does do coffee with a whole bunch of folk. So
good. I'll meet you at Restoration at 6 o'clock. We got have our little round table. This week will be
light. Unless that's 6 at night, I'm probably not going to make that meeting.
Well, that's just the old guys. We're up at 5 anyway, no matter what.
Kristen, questions?
I don't have any questions, but I agree with all of you guys that I don't know. I just think this is very inspiring, and I'm really excited to hear about all these developments. I took so many notes just now, and I was just like, as I was typing, I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. So I'm very humbled to be here. I'm very excited.
Thank you very much, Kristen. And I know because he and I went to a conference, and I know her note taking is like a friend of mine when I was in church school, whatever, and they made line after line after line of notes, and mine were over in this corner and over in the other corner, that kind of thing. Bob, quick question. The special code that the town council has to pass in terms of zoning, that's on top of the new stretch code, the green community. Because we're a green community, we have to do that. What do you have any thoughts yet on that? Or because one of the things I'd like to do is recommend to this committee to think about it and then possibly recommend it to the council for adoption.
Well, I think at the May 9th meeting, the council is adopting a resolution supporting the direction that we're going based on the workshop. We're going to begin our community engagement in the next couple of weeks. There'll be some information that we're going to be able to get out to different committees and commissions to, both for their members as well as members of the community. So I think just communication and dialogue with the council is going to be critical. There's been, as we talked about in the workshop, there's been a lot of great planning done but there hasn't been any implementation done. So we're past the planning stage. We are focused on the implementation stage. But educating the public as well as board and commission members is going to be a big part of what we do. And my staff, my office is, we're prepared to go to where we need to go to have these conversations, to both get input from the community, share the vision, understand what the community is looking for. We feel as if there's a large percentage of the community that is not necessarily engaged, and that's not a criticism, it's just an observation. We hope that this effort will bring some people into the engagement process that previously hadn't been inclined to be involved. So, we intend to work with the schools, working with BSU. I mean, in the 3 months that I've been here, I think we made a lot of progress in terms of partnership with BSU. They're going to work with us on a lot of the community outreach that we're going to be doing. So I think it's an exciting time for the town. As I said, for me, my career started here. One way or the other, my career is probably going to end here. I hope that's not next week.
I'm going to do my best not to have that happen.
But I mean, I'm quite excited about all of this. And I think once the broader community starts to see some of the things that we're talking about and some of the things that can become a reality, there's going to be a lot of excitement in town. And overall, I think it's a good thing because we're looking to concentrate development in areas that we already have infrastructure, take development pressure off those areas of town that are either conservation or open space or agricultural that don't have infrastructure. There's many moving pieces to what we're doing, but I think that both the town manager's office and the council are supportive of the direction we're going, and until they tell me to stop, then I'm going to keep going.
So I just love it. That's fantastic. So Bob and I met, I guess, 10 days ago or so, and we talked a bit about some things. One of the things I mentioned, we've got these goals from the town manager, and I want to talk about them tonight a little later, but the main thing I'm concerned with is how can we best get things in front of them? What is it, just ad hoc, or should we, is it preferable that we just attend meetings and bring up energy every time?
Yeah, I mean, as I said, I mean, there is going to be specific language within the form-based code, addressing the fact that, the stretch code is in place, but also that, there's a little bit higher level of expectation with respect to, source, efficiency in the construction of the building is important, but also sourcing energy from renewable sources is going to be important as well, right? So we want to make sure that we're moving towards that, that, we're including EV charging stations when we do new construction, that we're encouraging, bicycle mobility as part of this. So, I mean, I would just say, pay attention to, as we start to do this community outreach. I think there'll be opportunities for, Carlton, you and the committee to share some of, what the Energy Committee is doing and how we've rolled that into some of the things that, we're doing as part of this. Because, again, I believe there's a large percentage of residents in Bridgewater that probably are on paper very supportive of the initiatives that this commission has, but are either unaware of it or unengaged. And, we understand that we have young families, they have kids in sports and things of that nature, but we intend to go out to where they are to start talking about this messaging. We're taping, we're going to do a monthly TV show on BTV. We're taping the first episode next week. That will be a half-hour show. It's going to be formatted like a newscast. So we'll be talking a lot about revitalization and many of these things, but we'll talk about other things as well because no one wants to listen to me for half an hour. But again, just trying to raise as much awareness and maybe create a new attitude, and not saying we have a negative attitude, but to create a more positive attitude of a vision for what Bridgewater can be. A large part of what I focus on is something called transit-oriented development. That's why we're looking at relocating the MBTA station. But I really believe that the town is situated to be a model for what TOD is. And if we are a model, that means that we're reducing the amount of cars that are on the road. that people that could live near the train platform would be more inclined to want to take public transportation. We're having conversations with BAT. They're very encouraged about increasing their visibility and access to their fleet of buses, in which they're in the process of wanting to convert to electric. So I mean, I think the stars are aligned a little bit in terms of, what we're doing in Bridgewater, but also on a regional basis as well.
Thank you. I'm going to let you go, but I will offer myself, and I think the committee would be more than available. If there's anything you want us to develop, write up, do a little presentation about what we're doing, anything that helps, I'm more than willing, and I think the committee also.
I'm aware of that, and I appreciate your efforts, all of you. And I would just say, stay tuned. And if anybody has questions, comments, thoughts, as Carlton knows, I'm downstairs in Town Hall. My door is always open.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Go well.
I shall bet you.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
night, everyone. Thank you.
Bye-bye. So guys, I know I sent out a pretty heavy agenda. And it's a little bit upside down, but the first order of business for us is basically the approval of the minutes. And all three of us were at the October 10th, 2022 minutes. I actually had I replaced one, and so you got the same minutes several times in your packet. But I did send the October 10th one out, and I would like to have us approve that. All three of us can vote on that. On the second one, Kristen, since you were not at that meeting, you'll have to abstain on that particular one. So I would entertain a motion to accept the October 10th.
I make a motion, we accept the October 10th meetings. Minutes of the meeting it's written, it's recorded. Let's put it that way.
Kristen, can you second, please?
And I second.
All right, and all, no discussion? All those in favor raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, roll call, I see everybody. Saying January 17th, Tom and I met, and I wrote those minutes up, and you've hopefully had a chance to read those. Again, Kristen, you'll need to abstain, but Tom, do you have any issues with those?
None. No, I make a motion, we accept those as written.
And I will second that. And here, any discussion? Hearing none, hand wave to approve.
Approve.
Thank you very much. I had in the agenda, I had kind of upside down the agenda. I put new business and then old business. I want to jump back down to the old business. First, the energy aggregation program that Tom and I discussed back in January has actually advanced quite significantly. I can report that the town council actually has an order before them to explore further the energy aggregation. And Kristen, you were at that conference that we were at, so you understand that it's the town buying the energy, and then everybody in town that has a meter gets a lower price of their energy for the term of a contract. It could be significantly lower, et cetera. But I did a presentation before the town council, and they have moved it forward to the point that they have this order before them to, in fact, end up hiring a consultant to help really roll this out, put things together. So that's moved forward, and I really appreciate the support received from you guys. Comments or questions?
That's great. That's amazing.
They sent it to the rules committee. I didn't see that the rules committee had met, so hopefully 2 weeks from now, when they meet again, it'll be on their agenda. The next agenda item is the goals and reports that we're supposed to be dealing with. And I kind of have been having mixed feelings about those reports. I had tried to think that we could do individual reports for each goal. And as we've worked on it, and I've sent you some of the documents for you guys to cogitate on, they're a little bit too kludgy. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, I agree. The fire station one and all those ones.
Yeah, well, there's other ones. There's actually the reports. Maybe I forgot to send them. You had drafted something. I edited a little bit, added, and I've added more But basically, it was a long time ago. Goal 1, grant energy opportunities in Bridgewater. We've actually got set 15 pages of links, et cetera, in that particular document that I think the public would have a hard time actually getting through it because we've captured so many things. We don't have to act on it tonight, but I would like you
I'm part of
guys.
the public.
Yep.
I'm part of that public trying to get through that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. So what I'm thinking is we want to step back a little bit, and I'm going to make some suggestions. We don't have to act on it tonight, but maybe just a list. I think I read somewhere, if we just had a list of go here for, solarize your roof, go here, energy aggregation, go here. If we could consolidate that in some way, that would just be a bunch of links for people. It might be, and maybe a little introductory text would be good.
Yeah.
So just keeping it, following the KISS principle, because that's me. Keep it simple, silly man. So that's that one. The energy initiative one is really gotten long. It's because I have done a lot of work on, Kristen and I learned a little bit about a program that's out at the University of Massachusetts Amherst, the Extension School. They have a program that actually has a 6-step process where you go through to figure out where you can solarize municipal, in our case, regional school district parking lots and other locations.
Wow, really?
And it's a really neat program, and I've connected with them since that training that we had, and I've asked them that if they would consider coming to Bridgewater to help us do that process. But the point in terms of this energy initiatives piece, it's way too long. It's long. It's 30 pages, but 20 is really text. 10 of those pages are a small to large wind zoning concept for small windmills. And I've sent that to Bob Ruley. By the way, he and I met. I think I mentioned it. We and I had met, and I sent that as follow-up. Hopefully, some of that will come part of this form-based code. But I've also, and I have it, but I may want to display it. I have a very large PowerPoint presentation that walks through parcels that I've identified that are town-owned, school district-owned. I've looked at where they are, and at the meeting that we went to, the training, what they said are the 2 major things that inhibit the problem is having access to 3-phase power lines. How close are they? And the second piece is what they call the host capacity. What is the capacity that National Grid, in our case, has available for hooking into solar or wind energy projects?
How much will it take? Yeah.
Yeah, and so how much will it take, essentially? Correct. And I was frustrated because I couldn't find, they said they're all online. It took a while, but I finally found the maps and was able to put together a spreadsheet that linked the properties that I've identified with the 3-phase lines and the proximity to the 3-phase lines, and then also to lines that have 0 capacity. There are some with 0 capacity for hosting and some with very large capacities for hosting. And so I've mapped that all out. And I'm thinking that PowerPoint may actually become what we use for
Blueprint.
the initiatives. This application that UMass Amherst had put together, and Kristen, correct me if I'm wrong, the application and process that they put together has a public process, basically identify the people that are going to lead the effort. We found them, we're looking at them in the mirror here right now. The second part is to engage someone to do some expertise work. That's I've done a lot of the work an expert would done, but we may need somebody else. And then there's a public engagement and a whole series of things that they go through. And it's really complicated. So I'm not sure where I'm going with this at the moment, but what I think is maybe we should have a meeting in a couple of 6 weeks or so. That's all we do is look at that PowerPoint and go forward with a recommendation. I'm trying to look at
Yeah,
some of
that's a
my,
good idea.
so basically I think we should do that. I can fine tune this PowerPoint. It's about 50 slides long. So, it takes a lot and maybe it's way too long, but I think if we can go through that and then you guys can help me figure out what's excess or we don't need, then maybe we can have a little workshop of our own, public workshop, that we could hone that down and say, town, here's what we think we should be doing next. And we can go forward with that. Okay, I'm yadding on a little bit too much, but that's where I'm at with that particular one. And the third one is a energy education program. And in some ways, what I gave to the town council and this last PowerPoint I put together, in some ways that's education. And so I'm thinking it's not a report. It's some kind of thing that maybe it's a video that we would do. Maybe it's some kind of, did you know, and walk through this. Maybe it's part of Bob's Ruli's process. But I want you to think a bit more about how we can do a better public education program. And maybe those two latter things that I just talked about would be that would be the only thing we focused on at the next meeting. If that's it. I'm going to stop a minute and let you guys talk.
Yeah, I think like visuals would be a really good idea because people are always gravitating to visuals when trying to absorb information. So if we did even we could do like little videos, or we could do just like little posts that have like kind of like bite-sized information too, that's like easily digestible. Kind of different variations of visuals. I think that's
a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they're doing it with the town council's doing that right now with this override vote that we have on Saturday. But basically, they've all done a 30-second snippet about why we should pass that, because it's seriously important that we not hinder our town government in terms of financing. If we don't pass it, then
Right.
we erode some of the services in town.
Like you said, the KISS thing comes in, keep it simple. And if the longer it goes, and if it's in writing, like Kristen said, you throw a snippet out there, you're gonna get my attention. And you keep it for 30 seconds and I'll run that again because it's got my attention, and I'll run it again and read. But if it's eight pages long, you lost me on page 5. And I'm not gonna go back and read that again but if you're showing me something and you're explaining it to me, now I'm saying, hey, I can connect the dots.
So maybe I should approach Jeff Fowler at the cable station. Their subscribers have gone way down, but I think going there and get that snippet and then we can put it on the website or that kind of thing. Maybe work with them. If you guys think that's a good idea, then I will approach Jeff Fowler and see what we can come up with. He might have
everybody's looking on their phone at these small little messages that are coming through, and they're reading, they're watching them, the small, little videos. That's what they're doing nowadays. At least that's what I see. Everybody's got their phone in front of them. If we can get out like that, that's on the public is going to find anything nowadays.
Okay, so let's take the action that our next meeting, well, we'll figure about 6 weeks from now. We'll work on who's available, and then we'll just focus on those two topics, the solarization piece and then the public outreach part, so we can meet those goals. But I do have some other things that I want to make sure we deal with tonight. And we just talked about item C here, solar facilities on public lands. Again, I have this large PowerPoint that I need your guys' eyes on it to actually, and it's too large to send, but I need your eyes on it as people to say, Carlton, you're just overkilling this particular one, or you didn't have enough information on that one. So that would be great. Tom, the Big Belly trash compactors, I know at our last meeting, and I did speak with the town manager about it.
Yeah.
That's action that I had to do. And he was very excited. He said he wants to get the Big Belly solars on at the various parks that we're trying to develop in town. If we had those in town, it would be great. So he's enthusiastic about that. But the question becomes is when and where and
Right.
that kind of.
The one that was down, I don't know if they've moved it yet, but Tom Kilgore said he was talking to Rec Commission. I talked to Dan Buron, and they were gonna move it to Legion Field. I'm not sure if anybody's done anything with that one. And it's probably, quite honest with you, nobody knows how long it's actually been there. It's probably lived its life.
Yeah.
And it's not worth it to reinvest in it, maybe. But
Well,
if Buron was gonna bring it up to the Rec Commission about where would we want them? At the playground, it's Legion Field. We could use one on center of town. This time of the year, the more people going through the center of town. And,
Right.
and instead of emptying that trash every other day, they can do that every couple of weeks.
and you guys know the town has acquired where the old mobile station was. The town
Right.
is finalized that, or very, very close to finalizing it. And if
Wow.
that becomes a park, that's just another place to put it.
Another for it, exactly.
Oh, that's great.
And there are some potential places to go get some funding for it that I'll talk about and under new business. But you know, let's just keep that. That's again part of a presentation to the town council. We
Okay.
recommend that you guys invest in this, and we could get it on the capital list. There's a number of things we could do. So maybe, Kristen, in your minutes, you can remind that maybe we thought about going to the town council for that. The next item is municipal energy tracking, the MEI. There has been a lot of changes in that tracking that I do. And I got an update for the fossil fuels from the finance department, and I've updated that. But I also found a number of accounts that weren't recording information. And so I checked, and apparently there are 3 new accounts that I've entered into the MEI system, but I have not seen an update. But I also requested that the town get a list of all active electrical accounts in town, so that I can go into the MEI and see what's been turned off, what's been added, and so we can get that update going. So that's a work in progress on my part, and I've talked a little bit about with the Community and Economic Development Director about maybe getting some kind of help to pursue this kind of thing, but that's just down the road, as FYI. The solar supply from the fireworks circle. The town finance department's been very, very, very busy with budgets and those kinds of things, so they haven't been able to get me the information recently, so I can update that. But again, that's just another piece that we need to focus on. And I did not get any good information on the solar energy credit process. I'm still having to get that worked out. And the item G, the small scale wind zoning ordinance, again, I mentioned that I had sent it to Bob Ruley. I think that could become part of this form-based code.
One big
Where-
part for new stuff.
For example, the form-based code would include a big warehouse that might come in somewhere. You know, having that as being an option or something that they should consider would be good. And the specialized stretch code, specialized code that the town council would have to vote on to accept, that includes a requirement for all of those large buildings to actually solarize their buildings. So that's one reason I want to push a little bit forward on that one.
Would have been nice if we had done it with this new one they just built on 28. They have them,
Well-
so not sure what's up there.
You know where the really big one is? It's out on Elm Street. That's probably got 6 acres of roof.
Oh, good. Does it have a?
And that's the kind of thing we want to begin to push on that. The Soul Smart designation, the question I had put was, should we pursue this designation? I don't know enough about it yet, so maybe we should postpone that particular one. I think it's just a yes, we are a town that's committed to basically trying to get our carbon footprints down as slow as possible. And my apologies for not knowing more details at the moment. I just have a couple other things I've been doing. And then, Kristen, we had on the previous meeting the MCAN opportunities. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, MCAN is the Massachusetts Climate Action Network, and they have a couple of chapters, and I didn't see any for Bridgewater, so I thought that it would be a way for me to like reach out to them and ask if we could set up a chapter here. But then I found that there's actually a chapter called the Sustainable South Shore. And I tried to reach out to them, but it looks like their page hasn't been active in a couple of years. So I'm trying to figure out like who's running it now, and seeing if we can kind of like see if we can get information on what they're doing too, like in terms of like energy, because this network is really involved in like the stretch codes and everything, and they're trying to push for like even more sustainable like codes like across Massachusetts too. So I thought it was like an interesting thing to look into. So I reached like a little bit of a dead end with them, but I'm trying to see if there's other ways that we can get involved.
I know, I'll put you, there's the Green Communities Coordinator is a person named Lisa Sullivan. She worked for the town. She did a lot of energy coordination for us before she left and went to one of the district plannings. And then now she is the Southeast Regional Coordinator for Green Communities. Her name is Lisa Sullivan. I will take the action to send you her link, and maybe she could help you with that kind of thing.
Oh yeah, that'd be great. Yeah.
Because she's very open and very open and very enthusiastic, and she can actually come and talk to us a little bit about some of these special codes that are out there. So that's just another educational piece. Maybe having her and us at as we were talking earlier, some kind of public thing to talk about what the green community is and what the stretch code that we adhere to. Those kinds of
things. If we could even like record that and use that as the educational piece.
I think BTV's got their studios are close to being done and upgraded. So that would be just another, like a little roundtable sit and talk about kinds of things might be the way to educate. So I'm actually, I like that better than actually trying to write a report that nobody's ever going to read.
Yeah.
So.
Cool.
I'm with you.
Thank you very much for that. I really appreciate you doing that. So I'm going to flip us back to the new business. And in this case, I'd like to get votes from you guys if you want to. The new fire station, there is, I think, we've been asked for dates that we may be available to attend the next building committee to talk about energy on the new station. One of the things that I think we should be pushing is this PHIUS, PHIUS. That is an international code for energy efficiency, etc. And I think I mentioned at the last meeting where I learned of it was online. But when I mentioned it to the McElwain School redevelopers, the new building, I said, PHIUS, did you even bother? They said, oh yes, we're fully PHIUS compliant. And basically that has not just to do with, it has energy consumption, energy efficient appliances, how you seal up the building, all that kinds of things. And the way to think about it is that there's a thing called HERS, H-E-R-S, HERS rating. And as I understand it, I thought it was just how much vacuum can you draw in a building? So how tight is the building? But it actually gets into the energy efficiency of all of your appliances, those kinds of things. And if you'll see, look in the stretch codes, there's the target on the new stretch codes is something like 45. The lower the number, the better. It's what I understand. They came in at 22.
22, I saw you that.
And that's an amazing thing. So when we go to the fire station, I would like a motion, and I can, and we can bring it before the committee when we meet as a vote. We can also have it in the records, and I can send a letter to the committee. But something to the effect is that the building committee in their deliberations consider following the PHIUS uppercase letters requirements for energy initiatives at the fire station. If that's something you guys think we should be pushing, I would really appreciate a motion.
I'd make that motion for the building committee to look into that. With PHI US codes, you know, it adhered to.
Thank you,
Yes.
Kristen.
I second that.
Thank you. For discussion's sake, Kristen, can you, I know you take great notes, but to make this more formal, can you read back what I think I said?
All right. Let's see. My shorthand is the FIAS rating, the HERS rating is basically how tight is the building. And then I wrote energy efficiency of appliances. Target on new stretch code is 45, lower the better. They came in at 22. And then I wrote amazing in parentheses.
So the motion is,
Go to
The
the
motion-
fire station motion, vote records, letter, building committee deliberations, consider the FIAS requirements for energy initiatives at the fire station. Should we be pushing this? ...
okay, but the motion that you guys just made, I want the language for that. It's basically Energy Commission, listen, the Energy Committee recommends that the fire station building committee consider energy efficiency as good as PHIUS, PHIUS or better.
Okay, got it.
Okay, and from a friendly amendment perspective, is that capture what I think we want to have them do?
Yes, I think so.
Yes, I agree with that.
So not to belabor it, but any other thoughts on that?
Mike,
And I would call-
I think that's good.
Tom?
is there, I don't know, we even look if there was funds possibly for, if you do meet these standards, to community, municipalities get an avenue to recoup funds by buying these, they're gonna be higher end
Right.
there. So there might be an initiative somewhere out there. I wouldn't know where to look, be honest with you, but maybe.
Well, I think what we do is we put the motion before them and say, here's what we're recommending, and then we can fill in the details if
Sure.
as needed. So I would take and again, a voice vote for this motion. Tom, yes or no?
Yes,
Kristen?
Yes.
And Carlton's a yes. So I will take the action to put together a memo to this committee that we want them to consider this. Thank you very much. So when Tom, you mentioned funding opportunities. One thing I spoke with Mr. Rulli about, and what just came out, and I think I sent you some information. What just came out from the green communities is they have a grant process where you can apply twice a year. You can apply for funds to decarbonize is one set of terms, and the other is just energy efficiency. And when I talked with Mr. Rulli and Shane, the planner, they said that they were having some buildings looked at in terms of what we could do for energy efficiency. The good news and the bad news is that the applications are due May 3rd, I think it is, early May, for anything we want to consider. So, but the good news is there's a second round in the fall.
Paul, I thought,
And what I'm hoping that we can do is move forward in one of two paths. One of them is Lisa Sullivan, again, she sent me some notes, and I'm going to read this so the record has it. Basically, Bridgewater can apply for $200,000 competitive grant or a multi-year decarbonization grant for up to $500,000, but not both. The $200,000 grant, if awarded, and and finished in 1 year could
Oh,
apply you could apply the next calendar year.
Mhm.
So basically, if you do this particular one every year, you have to complete it, but you can't apply until you complete it. But it's every year and you can go up to 200,000. It was limited a year ago to 100,000 because we've already gained or had $1 million plus of energy grants from the state to get our buildings more efficient. But they just raised it for the $1 Million Club to be 200,000 per year. So that's capped, but that's great. The other one is this decarbonization grant. Applications will be accepted from municipalities seeking funding for comprehensive building decarbonization projects that extend beyond the typical grant in implementation time and cost. Awards for building decarbonization projects are capped at $500,000. Require a minimum 25% match, so the town would have to come up with 25% of the project cost. Must demonstrate reductions in greenhouse gas emissions and must be completed within 3 years of the grant contract execution. Grant awards in this category are highly competitive and will be limited. Projects that fully replace fossil fuel fired heating systems are prioritized. Municipalities applying for a building decarbonization grant cannot apply for other projects in this period of notification. Building decarbonization grant awardees under this, what they call PON, will be ineligible to apply for competitive grants for 2 years. So the balancing act is, do we want to do something annually as a town and they have to make the decision? Or should we go after one of these really big grants?
Big ones. We got 3 years, is it?
It's 3 years to complete the performance. And so when you look forward and what's going on, the fire station comes immediately to mind because they probably will be going into construction a year from now. And so one of the thoughts I've had is, well, maybe we should encourage them to apply for that. The other side of the coin is that the townhouse, the 1843, the former town hall, now we call townhouse, will require a lot of energy upgrades, and it potentially could be a competitive. So one's a new build and one's a reuse of a building. And I think either one of those could potentially serve. Mr. Rulli talked about a $2 million grant from the feds. He's also made statements to the effect that it's somewhere between 5 and 10 million to fully upgrade that building, restore it and reuse it for cultural uses, et cetera.
5 to 10 million.
Well, the Academy building was 5 million, and that was
Yeah, but it's a lot. The Academy three times the size, it seems like.
3 times the size. Price has gone up.
Yeah.
It's important to consider all of these other sources of funding. So that's one piece that we need to be engaged with, and I think we need, when we have the meeting with the committee, maybe the fact that we just voted to have the PFAS in front of them, maybe this is something that we would bring up also to see if they would be willing to look into it for.
That might for the fire station. That could be that avenue that we could say,
I'm going to talk to additional people besides ourselves about, well, which is the right thing? Should we go after money for the new build or should we go after money for the restoration? I just don't know. So that'll be an action that we need to follow next meeting, or when we can.
Well, the other question is the meeting house. If we apply for this, we have 3 years to use it. Would that work be done in that particular building in the next 3 years? Where the fire station we know is going to start working, digging dirt next year.
This is true.
That's something to think about also.
I think that helps focus it. That's a really good logic. That I don't know what the townhouse, it could be not even start. They may not even start it for 2 years. I don't know.
Well, they're looking at their price tag, and people are going to step back and say, hey, 5 to 10 million. That's a big number to throw in. We know the fire station's going. It's already been approved. It's out there. This wouldn't be that hard of a sell for that part. If you ask me.
I think you're making very good sense there. And the other piece is you can't, what she said in terms of what she sent, you had 3 years to perform or complete the project. I'll find it. Always paperwork. She said must be completed within 3 years of grant execution. Grant awards in this category are competitive. Oh, there it is. It says building decarbonization grant awardees under this PON will be ineligible to apply competitive for 2 years after award.
2 years.
So with the logic you just put forward, get the new build, and then 2 years later, even though you're still finishing.
You're gonna fall into the other one. Yeah,
So
you look like I'm smart.
Tom, I've always said that about you.
I hit another point, if I'm not, we approved the cost of the fire station. Could that 25% towards the 500,000 be part of the money that's for the fire station, where it won't cost the town any more money?
Well, this is true. This is true. That money's already been
I'll put out there.
in place.
Voted on.
The town has voted to fund that. So that money, right now, everything we get in grant money is trying to reduce the town's direct outlay.
Correct.
So,
So
good job. So that was the other piece that I wanted to make sure we were up to speed in terms of, and hopefully they'll have this meeting. I checked with Josh, I think it was last week, and he said they hadn't decided when they would have the next fire station meeting. So stand by for that. I will be out of town from the 29th, I think, of April through the 11th of May. So if they have it, maybe it'll be Zoom, but I will probably be out of touch.
I'm on the road in May sometime, but I don't think it's the beginning. I think it's towards the middle of the end. So we'll see.
Okay. The last piece in the new business is the Alternative Energy Development and Conservation Strategic Implementation Plans. New words that I just, in some of the reading I've been doing and in the discussions with the town manager that I had regarding energy before this, that was a month ago, I guess now. But one of the things that we talked about was this solarization of town municipal lots. There's the aggregation thing going on. And what he said is really what we need to have is a strategic plan on how we're going to pursue energy. Again, we just talked about some things, but it's
Right.
us talking without a plan in place. So one of the things he thought, and I agree with him, and if you guys agree with him, then I would entertain a motion that we pursue the hiring of a energy strategic planning. What's the right word? I'd like to consider a motion for the town manager to hire an energy specialist to help develop a strategic energy plan for the town of Bridgewater.
That's a good one.
I can't repeat it. but
Kristen,
Yeah. I agree.
So the thing to do is if you guys would put a motion forward or we pass a motion, then I can do a second letter that I would send to him and say the committee, based on our discussions and my input and his discussions, that we would, whatever I just said, have him hire a consultant for strategic energy planning. That's the word. A consultant for strategic energy planning, so that we can actually get some professional services in here to work on what Bob just talked about, the form-based code, those kinds of things. So it kind of all goes together. And he indicated that there may be some budget money that he could find ask for a consultant to come in. So what's your plan?
It's a good idea because we need somebody to show us are we chasing the right things in the right order and not tripping over one into another or duplicating or losing out on something because we didn't do it in the right order.
Or causing a problem down the road because we did it
Correct.
wrong.
Correct.
Good point. So if somebody wants to make that motion, I will move us
I
forward.
would motion that the town manager hire an energy consulting manager, would we call it?
the town manager would hire an
Energy,
energy efficiency consultant.
For strategic. Yeah,
Yeah, that's.
okay, go
I
ahead.
got it written down. Do you want me to?
Yeah,
Please,
you,
please,
it's on
please
you.
proceed.
Chris.
Yes, okay. So I motion for the town manager to hire an energy specialist / consultant for strategic energy planning to help come up with a plan. And one of those plans were to work with the form-based code.
Okay,
And
that's the reason why, yep.
yep.
So basically, it's to hire an energy consultant to deal with energy planning for Bridgewater.
Correct. I second that motion.
Somebody has to first it.
She did. She just, I thought she just
Oh.
presented.
Okay, my bad. So we have a motion on the floor. Thank you, Kristen and Tom. Any further discussion? Those in favor, please say Kristen, yes or no?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes, yes.
And I'm a yes. So I will prepare a letter in the next couple of days to send to the town council on the one and send to the town manager on the other one, just to try to move this forward. So going back to the agenda, have either of you come across anything new in terms of we should be bringing up, anything you've thought of, you've heard of, that we can address from an energy perspective? We got a lot on our plate now.
Not on top of my head.
Kristen,
Yeah.
how about the meeting you went to? I know you
Oh.
went to a couple of sessions. Did anything there?
Yeah, I
Did you-
mean, I just compiled a whole bunch of links, and I just recently actually got those lectures, so I was gonna like go over those again. But yeah, if anybody wants to check out those links, like you had mentioned in the beginning, actually, us just having a bunch of links for people to click on and check out, and like I kind of did that like in this little like, I don't know, PDF that I made. So I could like share that, I guess, if that would be like.
I think that's good. The other thing I would suggest, I think I did, remind me if I didn't, but I think I sent those draft reports, and maybe you could just go in and pull some of those into that piece.
Oh,
That
yeah.
would be really helpful. If you could pull, categorize them, rooftop solar, energy efficient appliances, that kind of stuff. If you can categorize it into some bins and then
yeah.
put it together, that would be incredibly helpful.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's a good idea. I'll work on that.
And again, I in the world of management, I think of things as urgent and important, or not important and less urgent. I put this one as an important thing, and it has some level of urgency, just to make sure we get this done in the next, quarter, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you're very busy with the things you're doing, so greatly appreciated.
Oh yeah, yeah. I can get this done. I already have like most of it kind of organized in its own way. So yeah, it's been work in the process. I'll definitely get it soon though.
Okay, so at this point, late May, maybe for the next meeting? Well, this is mid-April.
Have to check my schedule, because I know I'm out of town for 10 days with going to DC to visit my grandson. So.
Excellent. Okay, let me just put it on hold, and we'll work on that. We'll see where these various things come into, and we'll get these letters done and go from there. But I think definitely this is April, May, June. So somewhere in mid-June-ish, early to mid-June timeframe.
Yeah, that works.
Kristen, is that reasonably close? I know you're teaching, right?
Yeah, so that works for me.
Okay.
Can we meet in person sometime? Is it are we going to be doing this Zoom thing forever?
It's interesting. the policy has not been formalized. I had a meeting today with the town manager and another committee, and what he indicated was that a lot of people are saying, can you have a hybrid meeting? You know, committee members there and get, like now, if we had people in here, it would be
Mhm.
Zoom. What he said is to go to a true hybrid meeting, it costs a bit of money. So they're a little bit reticent to go full hybrid at this point. At the same time, I think there are committees that are meeting in person. And I will take it on myself to check and see whether or not if we can set up a Zoom meeting, that there is a small conference room in the Academy building that has got a screen. And I know I've been in meetings in the larger conference room where we do Zoom meetings. We're in there and the public can come and sit in that meeting, or they can be online. And let me pursue that. I think meeting in person, especially given the two things we really want to focus on the next time, maybe it's really important that we meet.
I think so. I think so. Get more out of each other. Just
Yeah.
did pretty good tonight, actually. We got a lot done tonight, I think.
Well, I was a little nervous because I couldn't get my head around everything we needed to do, and I fear that we've had so much. That's why I want to simplify the agendas a bit. Good idea. I will take the action should reflect it. I will pursue making sure the next meeting at the town academy building in person. And that way, if we had things we wanted to lay out on the table, we can work with it.
Mhm.
All right.
Good.
Kristen, anything else?
That sounds good to me.
Then I follow Robert's Rules of Order, and Robert's Rules of Order says that if the chair determines that there's no further business to be discussed, he can declare the meeting ended. Having asked if there's any other things to talk about, I am going to declare that this meeting is now ended, and thank you very much. And we'll be in touch. Sir.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
All right.
Thank
Good
you.
night. Thanks again for your
Good night.
help. Bye-bye.
Lost it.
Bye.
How did I do that?